Show! It is Tuesday, September 3rd. I'm your host, Will Satler, alongside Isaac Bugarin for episode 32 of Game 7, live from Met Radio in Denver, Colorado. How we doing today, Mr. Isaac?
Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. All right, did you hear LeBron James's crew is trying to trademark Taco Tuesday?
I mean, I don't know if that's legal, but that'd be pretty
We're about
cool.
to find out. It's Taco Tuesday, man. It's a good day. It's a great day to be
It's
here.
a great day to be alive.
Every day's a great day. Let's make today a good day. Let's make this podcast a great episode. What do you say?
I'm telling you, it's gonna be our best episode yet.
This is gonna be it, man. This is gonna be a great show. You know what week it is, man? Not only is it Raider hate week, but it is also Nebraska hate week.
Just always weak. Always just hate.
Always.
It was a good week last week.
It's opening week for football. You know, I guess I should say NFL football. It's opening week. We finally got some real football, right? I believe it's the Packers and the Bears that open up on Thursday night, right? Woo! What a great week, man. This is a great week.
Bears. That's going to be a good game.
Yeah, man. I got Aaron Rodgers and I got the Bears defense. So I'm not starting Aaron Rodgers, but I am starting the Bears defense on my fantasy football team.
What were you thinking? Who were you starting in quarterback, man?
Dak Prescott because he's going up against the Giants, and New York secondary is garbage.
That's a pretty good pick.
If you're listening for the first time ever, this is the Game 7 podcast where we're just a couple college kids that all we do is talk about sports on a weekly basis. This show is brought to you by Met Radio. Met Radio is the student voice of MSU Denver. We are both a couple college students here, like I just said. Will is a journalism major. I am a sport management major. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. You can hit us up with questions for all of our podcasts. Interact with us on social media. If you want to email us, because we're going to make some takes, so if you don't like our takes, email us game7show@gmail.com. That is game7show@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Facebook, Game 7 Show, YouTube, Game 7 Show. YouTube is where we post all of our full-length clips of the video, full-length video clips, I guess I should say. Podcast is probably going to be right about an hour and 15 minutes, I bet, today.
Somewhere around there. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today.
Oh, yeah. Twitter _Game7. That is Twitter _GAMESEVEN.
You can spell that, a boy.
I can. You can follow Will Satler at Will_Satler. You can follow myself at Isaac _Bugarin. That is WILL _SATLER. And you can follow me at Isaac _Bugarin, ISAAC _BUGARIN.
I can hear them all typing right now into Twitter. They're like, boop, 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 boop. BUGRAA.
I know. Somebody's my last name is always butchered. It never fails.
Well, same. I get Salter a lot.
Salty, Satler.
You get it spelled wrong like in important things, I feel like.
Yeah. Like my student ID is spelled wrong. Did you know that?
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's BURGARIN. Like, totally butchered.
Transfer season.
Don't tempt me with a good time. We give you a new show every Tuesday. You can find us on mymetmedia.com. Again, Met Media is the student voice of MSU Denver. MSU Denver has a newspaper, TV, radio, magazine, you name it. I think MSU Denver has it.
Yeah, it's very, very, very true.
So shout out to Met Media for hosting us and giving us the ability to post and use the studio and basically give you a professional podcast at the collegiate level.
At 18, or I guess I'm not 18 anymore. At 19 and 21 years old.
I'm 21.
That is true. This is the first episode that he's 21. He's still a little hungover from last week.
It was a good weekend, man. It was a good weekend.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun, I bet.
Last week was a great week, man. I went to the Rockies game on Monday. Went to the Rockies game on Tuesday. Hey, by the way, shout out to the guy that I met actually at the Rockies Red Sox game on Tuesday.
Is he listening?
I don't know. So I forgot to ask him his name, but if by chance he knows who he is because he's the only dude. I met him at a concession stand. What is that, like in the left field area of Coors Field?
Were you at Famous Dave's?
No, it was more like I guess not left field. It was foul territory, left field, right at this concession stand.
So like third base side foul territory.
Yeah.
Okay, like the chicken tender stand.
I don't know. I was thinking more of like the memorabilia stand where they like the autograph stuff.
Where you buy like game stuff.
Yeah. Game use stuff. So I met him there. Actually, I was with my mom at the Red Sox game. We were standing there, and I was actually talking to my mom about Jared Carabas. He's a writer for Barstool Sports, covers the Red Sox, covers all of Major League Baseball, basically. Does a couple podcasts. And I was telling my mom that he was at Coors Field, and this guy, he's like, oh, do you listen to Starting Nine? Do you listen to Section 10, both those podcasts that he does? And I was like, yeah, I listen to them. And we talked about it for a second, and I wasn't going to tell him I had a sports podcast because I felt like when you're talking about like a professional podcast, I didn't want to be like, hey, actually, while you listen to their podcast, come listen to my podcast. But my mom was like, hey, he also has a podcast. Why don't you follow him? And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll follow you. And he pulled out his phone right there, subscribed. So if he's listening, if you're listening right now, follow me on Twitter. I'll hook you up with a sticker.
With the sticker?
With one of our
turn it a little bit to the right, bro.
Can you see it?
If you're watching, a little bit more. So if you're watching on, yeah, we see it good now. If you're watching on YouTube, you get to see the sticker on Isaac's laptop. Not the I Miss My Dog one. We don't have those for sale. We don't have any stickers for sale. But the Game 7 podcast, it is kind of small on his computer, but I think it's the perfect size. You know, size matters, but when it comes to stickers, I think this is a good size.
I think it's like 2.5 by 3 inches or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Something like that. It's a sweet sticker, man. I like it. So let me know. Hit me up on Twitter, bro. And I'll get you one in the mail. Like, seriously, I'm so down.
And even if you aren't that random Red Sox fan that Isaac met, hit us up on Twitter. We're giving out some stickers. We got plenty of them left.
Oh, yeah.
We'll order more. The hype train is real. But they're pretty sweet. I put one on my laptop. It's probably my favorite sticker now. I'll probably put one on my fridge.
It's got... I'm looking at the sticker right now as we speak about it. One, it's got our Bitmojis. This is a new logo that we actually rolled out in...
Summer.
Over the summer? Yeah. Over the summer, we rolled out a new logo. It's got our Bitmojis at the corners at the top. Game 7 podcast with Isaac Bugarin and Will Satler. And then it's got the MSU Denver Roadrunner logo kind of faded into the background, which is pretty sweet. And then it says presented by Met Radio, the student voice of MSU Denver. Basically because that's who sponsors us, right? Basically they give us the platform to talk. Right. And then at the bottom you can see all the platforms that we're on: Facebook, Twitter. You email us, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify. It's a pretty sweet sticker. I like it, man. I like it. I'm really happy of it.
And you got them for a pretty good deal, huh?
Oh yeah. And so now I'm thinking of getting us some polos, man.
Dude, the polos.
We talked about it on the last episode a little bit, but I'm thinking about getting like a black polo and then in white writing it says like the Game 7 podcast or something. Should it be Game 7 podcast or Game 7 show? I feel like we're a bigger podcast.
Or it could just be Game 7. I mean, you don't really have to have either or.
Yeah, that's
but we're
true.
not really just a podcast because we do our YouTube content, we do our show, different things like that. So it's not necessarily that we're just a podcast or a show. And originally we went with the show like slogan because we were also live.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really the best fit for us, at least at this time. Like, going live is cool, but with our fan base and with our listeners, like, they like to hear sit down whenever. They don't have to listen to it live or whatever. So that may be something we look to in the future, but right now it's just the Game 7 podcast. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify, which is super sweet. Like, that's so crazy to think of. So
it is. How many people do you know that have a podcast on Apple and Spotify?
Like personally, or like did I actually listen to? Because I really like podcast listening. I only have a couple people saved, right? I have R2C2, which is Ryan Rucco, Yes Network, and CC Sabathia. I have the Mike Stud podcast, the You Never Know, you know what I mean, is what it's called. It's pretty good. Matthew Hagg, who is the owner of 100 Thieves, which is an esports organization.
Okay.
He has a pretty cool like business one necessarily that I listen to time. So just different things like that. Like podcasts are coming in and they really had a growth period last year. Now they're just kind of like, you got to have a podcast.
Everybody has a podcast.
I mean, like even The Athletic has a section for podcast.
Yeah, which is crazy to think.
And
everybody has a podcast,
right.
you know?
Which is the future, man, and you got to have one. And
it's crazy because I was actually just talking. So I'm the sports radio director here at MSU Denver. So I basically put my little input and I help people get their own show started. Mm-hmm. And I was just talking to a guy who's from New York. Actually just came to Denver and he's interested in radio. And I was just telling him how basically, we could have a live radio show here at MSU Denver, but everything is still going to be a podcast. Like no matter what, we are getting you a podcast no matter what. Like that is the bare minimum is to have a podcast because it's the future of sports radio. I think I guess radio in general is podcast. You know, you could listen to it whenever you want. Able to go back. You're able to fast forward, rewind. You don't have to listen to advertisements all the time. We're lucky we don't have a lot of advertisements that we played for this show. But we'll see about that.
Well, we're not making money, so therefore we're going to have to play advertisements and vice versa.
This is internet radio. It's free radio.
True story. And just the one person I didn't mention is like Adrian Wojnarowski. He has his own pod that I listen to.
He does.
I know CJ McCollum has one, but I don't really listen to his.
Doesn't Draymond Green have a podcast? I remember Drake roasted Draymond Green at the ESPYs when he hosted it. Was that 3-4 years ago?
That was the best monologue next to Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and Drake literally tells him he's like, yeah, Draymond Green's got a new podcast, man. He's like, it's a tough listen. It's a tough listen.
He's really kicking it on there, huh?
Yeah, he is.
He's going off.
But let's get into our podcast. Let's talk about us. Now that we're, 10 minutes in? 11 minutes in or something like that by now?
Something like that.
Today, we're going to talk about the Rockies and how they still suck, which is not any news, basically. We're going to talk about the Broncos. We're going to talk a little bit about USA basketball, and then we're going to talk about some college football, CSU, CU, and Nebraska. Then we're also going to dive into some fan questions. So that's what we got on the agenda for today. But real quick, first, let's talk about today in sports history. 1986, Olympic gold winner Shaun White was born. So this is his 33rd birthday. Happy birthday, Shaun White.
September 3rd, he's 33.
Kind of crazy, yep. 2001, St. Louis Cardinals rookie pitcher Bud Smith tosses a no-hitter against the Padres in a 4-0 win. Do you know who Bud Smith is?
No, it's Bud Black and Seth Smith combined.
Bud Black and Seth Smith. I remember Seth Smith.
He tossed me my first game actual ball. I got one from Clint Hurdle. That was my first ever ball. And then Seth Smith tossed me one on a third out. Kind of like Charlie Blackmon.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
He's a cool guy.
Seth Smith. I remember he had a couple walk-off home runs when he was a Rocky. A couple big hits too.
He's a good
especially
player.
in that playoff run that we had in 2011, I think it was.
Or 2009.
2009.
Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs after 2009. Until 2016.
Oh, that's right.
Or 2017.
2017. That's right. Bud Smith only played in the major leagues for 2 years. 2001 and 2002, he had a record of 7-8. He is now 39 years old, which is crazy to think. You throw a no-hitter in your fourth career outing against the Padres, and then you're only going to pitch for a year and a half longer. So
that's crazy. He said he's 39.
Yeah, he's 39 right now.
He'd still be pitching, Jamie Moyer style.
He could be, man. Unfortunately, he's not. In 2008, the brand new Oklahoma City franchise in the NBA announced that they will be named the Thunder.
Well, they were previously the Seattle Supersonics.
Yep.
I mean, here's a good take. I think we'll see Seattle back by 2025 in the NBA.
Ooh, you give it that long?
I mean, that's just a very wide perception because I think when the CBA, maybe a year after the CBA would be a good
time to announce that.
But a really good way to see how successful that a franchise could be in Seattle is the new NHL franchise that's in Seattle coming next year. So if that franchise is very successful, why would the NBA and Adam Silver not want to jump into Seattle, which is a huge market in general? I don't know why there's no sports there.
No, they have tons of sports and they're all really successful.
Well, I mean, and they're not the big sports.
You got the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL, the Seattle Sound, who they sell out a lot of MLS soccer games. They sell out a lot, and their stadium has broken a couple of records, I believe, for actually shaking the ground. They have earthquakes in Seattle because of the Seattle Sound fans and that stadium.
That's what I mean. Their fans are out world class. Even Washington and Washington State games in the Pac-12 are pretty hype. So it's a really good environment to have sports. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see a franchise move back there. I don't think it'll be a franchise that moves there. It'll be an expansion, which probably means they're going to expand with 2 teams, right? They kind of have to do 2 teams.
At once, yeah, exactly.
So where else would you put a franchise? Another Canadian franchise? I mean, Toronto's been pretty damn successful.
Yeah, I mean, what about... well, you have to think of what division needs a football team. So I guess...
Basketball.
Or what team needs a basketball team, or what league, what conference needs a basketball team. So I guess you kind of have to even it out, and you have to go to the. Well, I guess you have to go to the East Coast, so you go to. I mean, New York already has
2, 3.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, New York. I think there's more than 2 in New York, right? Wow.
The New York Knicks
and the
Brooklyn Nets.
So 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what if they went to Boston already has one. Who else am I thinking of?
I mean, Florida, you could always add teams in Florida.
Oh, no, you couldn't add any more teams to Florida.
Well, they got 4 football teams, don't they?
Nobody wants to go to games in Miami. Nobody wants to go to games in Orlando. Nobody wants to go to basketball games in I
feel like the Miami
Florida.
Heat are top 5 in attendance. I feel like it. I mean, now that Dwayne Wade
Would they
is retired.
They wouldn't add another one to like Carolina or something, would they?
I mean, that's very possible. I mean, the East Coast is unlimited potential, right? So anywhere you put a franchise on the East Coast, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the East Coast. It could be a central team. And like I said, Canada, if you put something on the East Coast.
What if another team went to somewhere? Okay, so yeah, if we added one in Seattle, then I guess you can't do Idaho, Montana. You can't do anywhere north of us.
Well, there's no people in those states anyway.
Nevada?
That would be a Las Vegas team, yeah.
Could you add one to...
But that would be very similar to the NHL. I don't know if they
What
would
about
do
like
that.
Missouri? Could you add like one in St. Louis?
Well, who's there right now? Nobody, right?
Nobody. So you might be able to get away with adding
That's a
one.
pretty good market.
Or Nashville. Oh, I guess they already have the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah. The Predators kind of run that town.
Indiana.
in college
Indiana is a
football.
really big basketball state.
Yeah, and like then you can just feed off that, right? I mean,
Could you go Michigan?
You think like North Carolina,
Wisconsin?
Yeah, Michigan has a team. Detroit.
Yeah, but you could add another one. Virginia? Could you go West Virginia? What country road take me home, West Virginia? That was a great song. You couldn't throw what else am I looking
Are you
at?
just looking at a map of the world?
Yeah, I'm looking at a map of the United States as we speak. Georgia, they already have the Atlanta Hawks.
Could they add a team from Mexico?
I don't think that's gonna happen. I've talked about it in my sport management classes about like adding a team in Mexico, and you know how hard that would be?
Well, they added a team, and most leagues have a team from Canada. Why not Mexico? I mean,
if you added a team in Mexico, you'd probably have to put it in a place like you'd have to put it in like a resort area. You could not add it in just the middle of downtown in Mexico City or Chihuahua.
Well, where
or
do the MLB series this last year? Where do they play? They played in Mexico City.
They played in Monterrey.
Monterrey. So could they put a basketball franchise in Monterrey?
Honestly, well,
I've never been to Mexico, so I don't know what it's like.
I've never been to Mexico either, but I can't. I just feel like there's too much like I hate to say it, but it's not safe to play in Mexico.
Is it safe to play in Brooklyn, or
I think it's totally different because you're in the United States.
Is it safe to play where at Chavez Ravine in L.A.? Is it safe to play at Oakland Coliseum right there?
It's different because you don't need a passport to get there. You know, in Mexico you need a passport. You know how many? Okay, so I'll put this as an example. Like who is the player from Turkey? I'm drawing a blank now. Enes Kanter, right? Where he went to, or they had a game in Europe, right?
Right.
And he couldn't go because he was afraid that he would be caught or something. What kind of if we had a team in Mexico and by chance one of the players is drafted by them or gets traded to this Mexico City team, and he's not well liked in Mexico. Now he has to play 41 games a year in Mexico.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Are you okay over there?
Yeah, my seat is like falling down, man.
I was kind of wondering.
Did you see?
You're getting shorter over there.
Yeah, that was a little weird, man. But can you imagine like the type of political problems it could have? And I just don't see a team in Mexico City, not in the immediate future. I mean, I get Adam Silver probably wants to expand the game of basketball to a more global scale, but I don't think Mexico is the right place right now. Not right now.
Well, they haven't played any games out there, have they? So,
I don't think so.
So maybe that's something like the MLB could possibly do that very soon because they've created something there. If anything, like imagine if the NBA expanded to China. Like that's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like the Chinese.
But I mean, how long of a flight is it from New York to Mexico City?
Right.
It's got to be at least 7 or 8 hours.
Well, just think about Major League Baseball, like with the Atlanta Braves the other day that were complaining. They flew from New York all the way to Colorado for one game and then had to fly to Toronto for two.
And but that was not because of the schedule makers. That was because of they had to make up a game, and that was the only possible day that they could do it, I guess.
Right, because then otherwise they have New York, and then they have a travel day, which is an off day, and then they go straight to Toronto, which isn't as long as a flight as Denver to Toronto, essentially. So
yeah, New York to Denver, Denver to Toronto. That's rough. That's a rough flight.
Yeah, because it's about a 5-hour flight, 4 hours.
No, that's got to be at least
from New York to Denver is what I mean.
Oh, from New York to Denver. I mean that's like a 4.5.
Because we've done that one before.
Yeah,
many times.
I just did it this summer. It wasn't too bad. It just went by pretty quick. It's like 5 hours, I bet.
It's not that bad, and especially if you have no layovers and you're just boom there.
And I mean, I guess travel is a little bit easier when you're a major league or when you're a professional athlete. You got first class seats.
I mean, yeah, and it wasn't even hard for us.
Yeah, so exactly.
I guess that's how it is. It is hard for anybody traveling, whether they are in Major League Baseball or not, if they play for the Rockies, because They have one more month in the season. They are 21 games under 500, equal to their losing total of their entire 2018. Well, let me get this right. 21 under 500 right now. They were 21 above 500 last year during their stretch. So wake me up when September ends if you're a Rockies fan. That's all I got to say.
Let's listen to this instrumental here and just get sad about the Rockies. Can we? Just for 10 seconds?
You finally want to get sad about the Rockies? You don't want to talk anymore?
Just give me 10 seconds.
It's been 9.
Just give me 10 more seconds.
You sound like my alarm in the morning. Google, give me 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. Snooze.
Rockies, man.
Why?
They suck. They suck.
We're just going off the template. Why? They suck.
They suck, man. The pitching sucks. The bullpen sucks.
No, not necessarily. They have a really good reliever now that they just moved to the bullpen. 7 straight losses for the Rockies. They've lost 9 of 10. They have not won in Los Angeles since last year.
And who did they play against last year? The last win in Los Angeles came against
the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Are they still called that? That was in August 2018 on the 28th.
So that's a year.
The last time the Rockies...
It's been over a year.
The last time the Rockies won in California, Southern California, with the Dodgers, was June 30th of 2018. That's over a year as well. So they've won in San Francisco. They've won in San Diego. But whatever's going on in Southern California...
San Diego's lower than L.A.
Yeah.
So we've won in San Diego this year.
Oh, yeah. San Diego's not as good as the Dodgers, though. I mean, that's the truth. But...
I mean... And I got questions about the Rockies, like, what do the Rockies need to do? Who should the Rockies let go of this offseason? Like, it's more complicated than just saying,
everybody.
Hey, let's cut Ian Desmond, let's cut Wade Davis, let's cut...
Well, if they do that, what are they going to do? Call up Yency Almonte to be in the setup role?
Exactly. Who do you...
They still have to pay these guys. It's not like they can just get them off the books. And if they're trying to trade a Jake McGee or something, they're going to have to attach a prospect or something like that. That's just really how the brunt of it is. They're going to have to wait this out. And while it was a very off year for them, it may end up being another rough year next year just because they don't have the prospects to build. I mean, Riley Pint, Ryan Rollison, they're all 1-2 years away from being consistent starters.
And we thought Peter Lambert wasn't going to see the major league level until August.
And he started well, and now he's really, really struggling. So
he wasn't. I hate to make the comparison of the Rockies and the Dodgers because I feel like I constantly do this, but the reality of it is that the Dodgers don't have as good of a minor league farm system as the Rockies do. We're literally like the same, but the difference between the Rockies and the Dodgers is that the Dodgers don't need to rush any of their prospects because they are so good at the major league level. There's no need to rush their number one prospects. That's why he barely made his major league debut this weekend.
Gavin Lux is who
Gavin Lux.
And you make a good point. And I think the last 2 years we've seen, while there hasn't been necessarily a big call-up for the Rockies, I mean, David Dahl, Trevor Story, right? Those guys weren't rushed, essentially. They had their time to build.
Exactly.
And when they were ready to go, they were here.
Arenado.
I mean, that's a little ways out. But still, the last couple of years, even their pitching, like Kyle Freeland, Herman Marquez, Antonio Senzatella, those guys had time to build, and then they could come up. Peter Lambert wasn't ready. I mean, Yency Almonte, will he ever be ready?
Brendan Rodgers, was he necessarily ready in May?
I mean,
in Philadelphia? No.
With last year, Raimel Tapia wasn't very good, right? And they gave him some time in AAA at the end of the year, and they gave him a spring training to just be at AAA, and he came up and he was a solid player for most of the year.
Another guy. Is he a guy that even makes the roster next year? There's so many, we have so many options. Sam Hilliard, was he rushed to the major league level?
I mean, he's looked good in his two.
Yeah, exactly, because he's had the time to develop. Because he was sitting behind Charlie Blackmon for the last 4 years. No, I guess I can't necessarily say 4 years, but
no, I get what you mean. I think that he's gonna be. I mean, they need at least 4 outfielders, right? You need one that can fill in. And I think Charlie Blackmon is going to be someone that you're going to have to fit in. I don't think we'll see David Dahl again this year, but he will be back as a starter next year. There's no doubt about that.
We have so many options in the outfield right now. I'm telling you, somebody is the odd man out, and it's either going to be Ian Desmond or Charlie Blackmon.
Well, who are your other
David Dahl. So either way, you have David Dahl, Charlie Blackmon, Garrett Hampson, Sam Hilliard. Because you can't send Sam Hilliard back down to AAA next year.
Yeah.
He's played all three positions since the call up. He's looked pretty good in all of them. He's showed some pretty good pop. He is so fast. He's better than Tapia right now.
Well, and remember during spring training, I mean, he looked damn good at spring training.
Yeah,
Ryan McMahon and all those guys, they looked good, and then they just weren't.
They looked good
prepared.
in Mexico too, in Monterrey, in the Mexico series against the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
And so you have Charlie Blackmon, you have Ian Desmond, Garrett Hampson, who should be an outfielder as Ryan McMahon is going to take over at second base. So you have
Ryan McMahon has been a very
Desmond,
lone bright
Blackmon,
spot for this team this year.
Hampson, Dahl.
In the absence of LeMahieu, Ryan McMahon has been pretty dang good this year.
Oh, yeah.
He's not been what LeMahieu has been. Obviously, he's an MVP candidate in the AL, but, I mean, that's still pretty dang good.
Exactly. But I don't see... We're going to either lose Charlie Blackmon or Ian Desmond this year. The Rockies are going to make sure one of those is not on the roster next year.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. That's something that could possibly happen if they need to move for another pitcher. I mean, if you look at their rotation right now...
If Breidich is the manager next year, if Breidich is still the manager at GM next year and he finds a way to keep his job, then I think Charlie Blackmon makes the roster.
Oh, yeah.
But if Breidich loses his job this offseason, which his seat has to be a little hot after this year, after the worst year and the highest paid payroll, his seat has to be a little hot. So if they fire him and somebody else comes in to take over, I bet 9 times out of 10, I think Charlie Blackmon is gone. Because this new general manager will not have the emotional strings tied to Charlie Blackmon. He's not. Yeah, he'll listen to the fans and probably take that into somewhat of consideration. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to rebuild this Rockies roster basically from scratch almost.
Well, and I thought it was interesting to see the article that Nick Groke posted for The Athletic the other day about the Rockies and being rebuilding from Nolan Arenado specifically. And to look 5 months earlier at when the season started that he wanted them to go see Arenado, wanted them to go and spend money now.
Yep.
And they went and spent money on Marquez. And they were like, this is the next step to being successful. And then now, 5 months later, we're talking about a rebuilding. So, one, I think that's just how Major League Baseball is right now. You can make very quick rebuilds. But I just don't see them doing a full rebuild, at least not next year. I see the little tools and pieces, like you're going to have to figure out your bullpen. Jake McGee cannot be in this bullpen next year.
Exactly. A lot of it comes down to pitching for this Rockies roster. It all comes down to pitching.
Oh, it's been middle to bottom this year.
We did not expect Kyle Freeland to have the type of year he has. We did not expect Marquez to have the type of year he has. John Gray has been consistent,
but he's hurt.
But he's hurt, exactly. So he's not even going to make it through the full season. So that's your top 3 starters already. And Tyler Anderson struggled this year, so he got sent down. And now we're relying on Peter Lambert, who went 2-0 in his first 2 starts against the Cubs, and hasn't won a game since. So Peter Lambert got rushed.
Well, if Chichi Gonzalez is your third best starter in the rotation, you have something going on. So
yeah.
And it's not like they were expecting injuries. It's not like they were planning for injuries. So
yeah, exactly.
But I do think Ian Desmond should move to the bullpen. I think that's a very good take. He did pitch last night in a 16-9 loss to the Dodgers. I think it was 16-9.
Ian Desmond pumped 93 miles per hour last night.
93 on the gun. He will finish the year now. Listen to this. He will finish the year with the 9th best F4 among relievers for the Rockies this year.
That's assuming he doesn't pitch again this year, though, right?
I mean, who knows? Maybe Bud Black should throw him in there. He's the 45th out of 49 Rockies batters this year with plate appearances in F4. So that shows you
he's a better pitcher than he is a hitter.
Yeah, and there have been a lot more than 4 pitchers that have hit for the Rockies this year. So therefore, there are better pitchers hitting for the Rockies than Ian Desmond is hitting.
That kid Peter Lambert can rake, man.
Yeah. Well, maybe he just be a DH when they put the DH in both leagues.
I think the DH is coming back coming to the National League next year.
I mean,
it's coming. It's inevitable. It's gonna happen.
This we should probably save for a breakthrough, not this episode, but next episode for the DH to talk about.
Okay.
The idea that I've come up with, I think it's cool to have a little bit of not DH in the NL and a little bit of DH in the AL, but I think the argument is to be made. If an AL team is going to play an NL team, there should be a DH, whether they're at home or on the road. I think that will shore up the fact that AL pitchers can't really hit. I know sometimes, like if Marcus Stroman was playing for the Blue Jays, to get him to see when he hits in Atlanta was really cool.
Yeah.
But when you see someone like, to don't even know. CC Sabathia. I mean, he was a good hitter when he was younger, but now, like, you don't want to see him hit. That's just the name of the game. So maybe it goes to something like in not necessarily high school, but college. I don't know essentially how the rule works, but maybe coaches have the option to add a DH. Because that becomes a good option, because then Bruce Bochy, if he were to stay for a couple more years and doesn't retire, I would hit Madison Bumgarner over any of their hitters in that lineup, right?
So you have...
So they don't have to use a DH. But when the next guy, when Jeff Samardzija, who is a good hitter, say he wasn't a good hitter, then you would DH for him, essentially. So you have the choice of when to DH. Huh. And I think that gives more options to both teams. And I love when you yawn on the mic and make our viewers fall asleep.
But then wouldn't that... Because the other team doesn't have to have the DH. So then I think that creates an unfair...
It's their choice. They can have one if they want one. And if they don't want to take one, they take that risk. But that's something you shouldn't have to say.
So like high school baseball.
Yeah, exactly. But the only difference, did you just hit your head?
Yeah, I hit my head on the mic.
You're falling asleep over there.
No. I like the headphone part.
I get you.
Yeah.
Well, and they don't have the option to just DH for any player in their lineup like you can do in high school. Say that second baseman's not a very good hitter, and you're going to put this guy that can't play the field at the hit for the second baseman. You can't necessarily do that, but I think the pitcher spot for one is something that you could hit for. I mean, that's a good argument compared to just taking it and not taking it, right?
I mean, I would much rather see a DH where you could DH for any position, because you can do that in the American League. You can DH for any position. It just happens that 10 times out of 10 times you see the American League pitcher being hit for.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just how it goes. And
because I remember, I believe it was the Tampa Bay Rays that did it. I mean, it was under Joe Madden. And, you know, Joe Madden was always trying to experiment with whatever.
Still is.
Yeah, and he still is, where he hits his pitcher in the 8th spot. But
you said it was a good idea. I don't know why you're hating on that.
I like it. I love seeing pitchers hit in the 8th spot.
It flips the lineup over.
Exactly. But Joe Madden, I believe he had a hitter for, what was it, his left fielder who couldn't hit, or his center fielder who couldn't hit to save his life. I can't remember who the player was. This dude could not hit water if he was standing in a boat, but he got hit.
He just wanted to use that reference. That's all he wanted to.
Yeah. He couldn't hit the red side of a barn.
Just to follow up a little bit more on the Rockies, because I went hard and looked up these stats. The Dodgers hit 7 home runs last night. If I'm not mistaken, the Rockies hit 3. Therefore, 10 total home runs was the most in Rockies history.
And it didn't happen at Coors
Field. The balls are clearly juiced. And Bed Black continues to get questions about this and he continues to say, let's wait till after the World Series to discuss this. I mean, the results came in for AAA for their regular season.
I saw that.
2,000 more home runs this year than last year just by going to the Major League Baseball. So changes are probably going to be needed to make. I mean, consistently you're hearing career high numbers for these players. And it's not like, I mean, this three-headed race of Pete Alonso, Christian Yelich, and Cody Bellinger has been awesome to watch.
And Mike Trout.
Yeah, Mike Trout is in there too. I mean, that's what you forget. It's a four-headed race. We haven't had something like this in years.
Exactly.
So it's interesting to watch and to see like Justin Verlander go out there and throw a no-hitter like he did the last night. Like it's baseball is fun to watch right now. I just think, and we've talked about this in shows past, there needs to be some transparency from the MLB here because there's obviously something going on, and I think that's the part that people are upset about. They could care less if people are hitting home runs. They just want to know why. And pitchers will figure out how a new baseball will change and how they need to change their arm angle, essentially, or whatever it may be. But right now, it's just incredibly lopsided, and it's not necessarily tough to watch, but it's just tough to think about, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think Rob Manfred definitely has some answers that he needs to share this offseason, because I think 2,000 home runs, a 2,000 home run difference in 1 year is too big to just not. It's too big to be ignored.
And if it was like 500, 250, like then you think, oh, the hitters are just getting better. They had a really good year.
And I've said
climate change, maybe the air's getting thinner.
I've said it on podcasts or on this podcast before that AAA numbers are so hard to look at because, you know, because pitchers are out there throwing changeups for a whole batter, changeups for a whole inning, you know, and hitters are out there saying, I'm only going to hit a ball opposite field in this game. I'm only going to hit a ball opposite field this week. They have goals where they say, hey, I'm only going to do this or this or this, X, Y, or Z for an entire week, for an entire month, for an entire game. That sometimes the stats are a little screwed,
Yeah, no.
But I think 2,000 home runs is a huge difference.
It's a huge difference in a similar sample size. So that's the other thing you have to keep in mind is if they don't say anything and then they go and hit a similar amount of home runs next year, then you clearly have a change in something. So the control group is AAA, and they're trying it out. Who knows? Maybe the MLB will make sweeping headlines and put the Major League Ball on all levels, and now college baseball will adapt it, and we're going to see.
Youth baseball. I'll have 10-year-olds hitting balls 300 feet.
Yeah, in mile-high air.
Gotta love it, man.
Duke Whitefield.
I actually had a kid hit a ball about 230 feet, 240 feet this year. Gone, dude. Kid was 10. He's a big kid. He was a big kid, but, I mean, he hit this ball, and it was a grand slam, actually, and he launched this ball into orbit, man. I've never seen a 10-year-old hit a ball that far, hit it that hard. You just hear it off the bat. There's nothing that sounds better than a ball hitting a bat just flush,
You know who else is a big kid?
Who?
Philip Lindsay is a pretty big kid. We're going to move over on to Broncos football. It is game week. There is no longer any preseason we talked about. Broncos suck? Is that true? Do you believe the Broncos suck?
Do you believe the Broncos are good?
No, but do they suck? No. I think they're all right.
We're stuck in like a hole.
I think they were all right last year, 6-10, right?
Oh no,
that's all right. That's not good, but it's not all right. 8-8 gets into the playoffs.
8-8 does not get you in the playoffs. This
last year would have.
This is the National Football League. You got to win 10 games to make the playoffs.
Last year we could have got them in the playoffs, 9-6.
9-1.
9-6-1. That's how the Ravens got in. No,
you got to win 10 games.
Oh, I think so too, but
you got to win 10 games.
That means you're good.
Yeah, if you win 10 games, you're good.
What are your expectations for Raider Hate Week this week? I just don't feel the hype around this team right now.
Neither do I.
It seems like there was so much thought going into the 53rd player on the roster.
Yeah.
They're not ready. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Vic Fangio comes out and shuts down the Raiders, especially with all the stuff that's gone around with Hard Knocks and Antonio Brown in that locker room.
Exactly.
John Gruden, but
I mean, you expect Chris Harris Jr. to shut down Antonio Brown?
That's tough to say. I expect him to put a pretty good
fight.
Yeah, but Antonio Brown's the best receiver in football.
On a new team,
let me take that back. Julio Jones is pretty damn good.
I think
all around, Julio Jones is probably
Adams
better.
Is pretty good too. And Green Bay, he's got Aaron Rodgers thrown to him.
He just really hasn't been in that guy for long enough.
I actually traded Julio Jones on my fantasy team, off of my fantasy team.
Do you ever think that a wide receiver will win the most valuable player in the NFL? Do you ever think it's going to be someone other than a quarterback that wins it?
Yeah, not in this day and age. This day and age, the quarterback is so protected. I just don't see another position winning it because it's just so. Quarterbacks are able to put up crazy numbers in this day and age of football, in this era of football where they're protected, bar none. They're protected no matter what, and they're going to put up their numbers because you're going to have 5-6 seconds to sit in the pocket, and if you get hit, basically there's a flag thrown almost automatically.
I think something interesting is for you. You've done a lot of changes to your fantasy team so far this year.
Oh yeah.
I haven't touched either of them yet. I think the team that I drafted is going to win without any changes.
Really?
I just don't feel like I need to make any changes.
I said the same thing, and then I had a couple trade offers come in.
And you had someone retire on you. I think that kind of.
I mean, he wasn't necessarily my starting quarterback anyways to begin with.
But you still had to make a move. You're not going to keep Andrew Luck on your team if he's not going to play.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think I ended up picking up Kyler Murray just for my.
I mean, that's
the way I saw it was if Kyler Murray has a great year or has a great couple weeks, he's going to be a hot commodity. So I figured, hey, if I can pick him up on my bench for the first 2-3 weeks of the year,
trade piece.
Exactly. I could eventually flip him for something. If not, then I just let him go. And the other whoever else I would have had was just going to sit on my bench anyways.
I have Jimmy Garoppolo on my bench for both teams that I have, so that's a pretty good.
You should be comfortable about that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with Jimmy G on my bench. I probably won't see him unless the bye week, but
I traded Julio Jones for Melvin Gordon and
Melvin Gordon's not even going to play.
And Tyler Boyd. I think Melvin Gordon's going to play.
I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to play this weekend. I think he's going to sign tonight or tomorrow.
Maybe Melvin Gordon doesn't play this week 1, but he's playing at some point. He's playing by week 2. This holdout's going to end. He's going to report to camp. So I'm not
holdout's
concerned.
always end, but Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not too concerned because I think eventually, don't you get fined for every game that you don't come up or don't show up to?
I'm sure there's a rule like that.
Because I believe it costed Le'Veon Bell money last year to not play.
Oh, but like it mattered to him. I mean, he's not making money essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not going to get paid that money if he's not playing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see like Deshaun Watson. Is he going to have take the next step and be an MVP candidate? I hope so because he's on my team.
I've never been big on quarterbacks that get out of the pocket and move like that, you know?
In the NFL.
In college, it's a totally different story.
But Cam Newton destroyed the NFL for a couple of years. And
then he fell back to reality where he's hurt.
He's been hurt. But Newton and Deshaun Watson are not the same quarterback, essentially.
They kind of are the same quarterback.
Deshaun Watson is a much smarter quarterback. He's not as big, so he has to know that sometimes he has to get down and slide. Cam Newton is a tight end in a quarterback's body, right? So he's going to try to run you over, where Deshaun Watson is much smarter.
Really? You think so?
Do you not believe that Cam Newton is much bigger than Deshaun Watson?
I'm looking it up.
Cam Newton is like 6'5", 250.
You almost hit it right on the nose. 6'5", 245.
See? Like, he's a big dude. And Deshaun Watson, I think, is 6'1", 6'3", 185.
Oh, I mean, he's 6'2", 215.
Okay, so I was in the ballpark, but...
So he's, 3 inches shorter and 30 pounds lighter.
Which is a big difference in the NFL, especially for a quarterback. Who do you think is faster?
Definitely Deshaun Watson.
Right.
Especially at this point. You know, Cam Newton's 30. Deshaun Watson's 23?
But
22?
You know the wide receiver that we didn't mention in the tops of... DeAndre Hopkins is on that team, right? He's throwing to DeAndre Hopkins, who is a top 5 fantasy pick, let alone wide receiver.
Yeah, he went the whole year last year without dropping a single pass,
which is insane to think of. So in Bill O'Brien's offense, like Deshaun Watson could have a breakout year. He's an MVP candidate for sure if he stays healthy.
I don't know.
Who's the one thing you could say is they don't really have a running back. I think Lamar Miller, right? Something like that. Are you done yawning, dude? Do you sleep before the podcast?
I just Googled Houston Rockets.
Are you good?
Yeah.
We gotta check on.
Hey, real quick, let me ask you.
I think you partied too much last night.
Let me ask you this: what kind of team names himself the Houston Texans? Your name is after the state that you play in.
Who names their team unsolicited Dak picks?
That is my fantasy football team name. Unsolicited Dak picks, because Dak Prescott is my starting quarterback right now.
Yeah, man. But that's not what you named your team before you drafted Dak Prescott.
But the Houston, how big of a state? Let me ask you, how big of a state do you have to be to name? Hey, let's name my team the Denver Coloradans. Like, how stupid does that sound? The Los Angeles Californians. The Seattle Washington.
The New York New Yorkers.
The New York Yorkers.
The Florida Marlins.
Do you mean the Miami Floridans? the Atlanta Georgians. The Houston Texans. It just sounds so dumb. I can't believe I'm talking about this on the podcast right now. How dumb does it sound? The Houston Texans, the Denver Coloradans, the Seattle Washingtons, the Los Angeles Californians. It just sounds so stupid. I just feel like I barely noticed that, and I just want to bring that to light because it just sounds so stupid, and I just hope everybody in Houston knows that they have the worst team name in all of football.
I had a question for you, but I totally spaced out what it was. Laughing so hard. Man. 45 minutes in, and that's what we do. We'll move on to USA basketball. We just wanted to have some fun with the Houston Texans. The USA USAs.
the USA Americans.
Aren't they? Isn't that what they're called? The Americans?
No, they're called the United States Basketball United States Men's Basketball Team. That's what they are.
USA. They're just USA flat out. But it's not like Russia has a team name. Like Serbia is the Serbian. When they're not like the Serbian Norsemen.
Serbian national team.
Yeah, it's the national team is what they are. You just can't like
USA basketball men's national team, right?
Yeah, I was just trying to make a joke there. Like obviously they don't have a name. But they're playing like a joke right now. They barely snuck out of round one. They won in overtime today. Was it China they were playing today? They're in China, I know that.
They just beat it was Turkey.
Turkey. Who do they have? Who does Turkey have? Who plays for Turkey?
Honestly, I'm not sure who Turkey has.
Well, that's a good point. I know who Serbia has because they're probably going to win the tournament. Jokic for MVP with Bojan. And did you see those passes that he made in Game 1? Jokic?
Okay, I don't know any of these guys. Holy cow.
Well, at least name some. We want to hear it. The viewers want to hear your pronunciation.
Egg Arar.
Oh, you don't know that guy?
Simi Erden.
Yeah.
Sertic Sanley. No, you don't know these guys. Shut up.
They play for the Houston Texans.
Goxon and Coxell?
No. You're butchering these names right now. I hope there's nobody that's going to take offense to that. He's really trying his hardest. The headline from that game, though, this morning.
I'm looking at the official roster here.
The headline from that game today was Jason Tatum did roll his ankle. Whether he plays or not, they're going to be in some trouble. As a Celtics fan, I'm sure that they are very excited with how he performed. But Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Miles Plumlee, or
Ersan Ilyasova?
Yeah,
that one sounds familiar.
Yeah, he plays in the NBA. Or at least he used to. I don't know if he still does. He's a sharp shooter.
Scotty Wilbekin, Ahmet Tensor, Sertak Sanil, C.D. Osman. That one sounds familiar.
C.D. Osman plays for the Cavs. I know that for sure.
Mali Montmutoglu, Furkan Korkmaz.
Oh, Korkmaz plays in the NBA too.
Korkmaz. Ersan Ilyasova, I said that one. Sami Erden, James Burson, Dogus Balbe.
Well, there's a lot of international basketball in Turkey.
Arslan?
Just because these guys don't play in the NBA doesn't mean they're not good.
Yeah, they all play for the whatever league they have in Turkey.
I hope so. I mean, it's just random guys they picked up off the street. I think that's what Serbia did. That Jokic guy, I'd never heard of him.
I could, and to think the United States basketball team almost lost to these guys.
In overtime, they snuck out of it.
They only beat them because Turkey missed 4 free throws to ice them.
That's tough.
They missed 4 free throws in the last, what was it, 3 minutes or something, or 2 minutes, and they couldn't shut out USA from winning. Oh man.
Do you have anything else on USA basketball before we move on to some more interesting stuff?
Team USA is not going to win this FIBA World Cup.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win, and that's unfortunate. But
all of a sudden, I find myself rooting for Serbia and Nikola Jokic.
I'm definitely rooting for Serbia. Let me get this. I'm rooting for Nikola Jokic. I'm rooting for my country, but I'm rooting for Nikola Jokic to have a great World Cup.
That would be sweet. Is Jamal Murray's not playing for Team Canada?
He did back out because of his ankle.
That's what I thought.
And just about every other
superstar.
Paul Millsap backed out. Mason Plumlee's playing.
Still playing, right? For Team USA, but he's not
going to play.
He's not getting a lot of minutes.
Jeremy Grant's going to get most of those minutes that Mason Plumlee used to get. So, hopefully Jeremy Grant's a good addition. And Jared Vanderbilt might get some more time this year.
We said Jason Tatum was helped off the court today, so that might actually open up some minutes for somebody.
I mean, they didn't really have anybody there playing a lot of minutes anyway. It seemed like the only highlights you ever saw was those three, the big-headed monster. Spider Mitchell and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's really who you saw. I mean, Miles Turner's on this team, but I haven't heard anything about him.
Yeah, neither have I.
Joe Harris is a shooter. Maybe he's going to get hot real soon.
Shoot or shoot, man. Shoot or shoot.
Shoot or shoot. Kind of like this weekend, Rocky Mountain Showdown. The final one in Denver, Colorado at Mile High Stadium. CSU. Final score was 52-31. Let me guess who won. It's CU. The 5th straight victory for CU in the Rocky Mountain Showdown. Mike Bobo, the head coach of CSU football, is now 0-5. He's the first Rams coach ever to lose the first 5 meetings of the Rocky Mountain Showdown. Colorado improves to 67-22 as 2 ties against CSU and their history.
I was talking to James Berkey. James Berkey is the editor-in-chief of the Metropolitan newspaper here at MSU Denver. He was telling me that according to whatever stats he looked up, CU and CSU is ranked number 46 out of 50, or I guess not 46 out of 50, ranked 4th from the bottom in most competitive games, rivalry games with in-state from between a state school and a university. Rightfully, like Colorado University and Colorado State.
Yeah, rightfully so. And that's like respect to Colorado State for still continuing to bring the same energy every year. Like they've lost 67 times, but they still continuously come with quality players. I mean, the wide receiver, Dante Wright for the Rams, put up quite a performance on Friday.
His first catch was 39 yards in the first quarter, and then later on in the game, he went down for 41 yards to score.
I mean, you could even say that he outperformed Laviska Shenault for the the Buffs, and that's an interesting to say, especially in football with a receiver, because the Rams had a pretty clear game plan as they were going to cover with one corner, obviously, at all times, and have a safety and help or a linebacker, whatever it might be.
Exactly.
So, and when Mel Tucker really didn't want to pull that card for Laviska and really go all in on Chenault in that first game, and it was very clear that they were like kind of working his way in.
Exactly. Well, I think Mel Tucker did a good job of not showing his cards to Nebraska the week in a meaningless game.
And I think, to be completely honest, he probably showed more than he wanted to against the Mountain West team that wasn't really a competitor. And this was more competitive than last year by any means.
Yeah.
And that's probably because Steven Montez didn't play as well. But
Steven Montez still threw for 232 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right. And their tailback, Alex Fontenot.
Three second half touchdowns.
Well, and it's not noted here, but the tight end that they got from SMU, who had the first catch of the year for the Buffs in that corner, he had a pretty big game too, as well as the defensive back, Onu, I think is his last name.
Mikhail Onu?
Yeah.
He got 2 interceptions.
Yeah, and he looked damn good in those interceptions. That was 2 pretty interceptions.
And one of those was that really controversial one, I think, where Mike Bobo was really upset about it.
I mean, it was clearly a catch.
Yeah, but Mike Bobo was upset about that. He was also pretty upset about the fumble that they called. I guess he was claiming that the ref said to stop the play, and then all of a sudden his guys stopped and CU continued to play, and that's when they knocked the ball out.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty
he was very
borderline.
upset.
He knew he was on the hot seat.
Yeah,
he still is.
His seat is a little warm.
Well, and he's got Arkansas not this week but next week, so they got to win this week against an FCS team.
Yeah, and then they go against Toledo. I mean, if they don't win
2 out of 2, 2 out of 4.
If they don't win these next 2 games, I mean, there's a chance they go 1-8 or 2-7.
And as sloppy as CU necessarily looked on offense, not really getting into their flow most times, they created 4 turnovers on defense. They did not have a turnover themselves, and they did not allow a single sack. So that's pretty damn good for a football team, especially a college football team, against a CSU team that was hungry for, I know it's a rivalry game. And that's something that I always say when it comes to rivalry games. I mean, even if they are ranked 46 out of 50 in like competitiveness, no matter how good CSU is or CU is and how bad CSU is, vice versa,
these two teams
are going to play.
They're going to get up.
And it was the same way even in high school, if you remember it, right? 3/4 of the time that we were in high school, Brighton was more competitive. They were more skilled. They had better athletes than Prairie View did. But it didn't matter when they played. They were going to compete. And
exactly.
And that's just part of a rivalry game, and I think that's something super cool. So
cream rises to the top, man.
I'm interested to see what it's going to be like next year.
Well, real quick, there was a lot of stars in attendance of this game. You know, Von Miller was there, Bol, Philip Lindsay. Did you see Champ Bailey was on CSU's side?
Champ Bailey was on the other side. We didn't necessarily see him, but
his son Kevin Bailey is a cornerback for the Rams.
Oh, no way.
Yep. So that's why he was there on the Colorado State side.
Good for him.
Hey, and also, did you hear that ESPN almost didn't or they cut all of the at least they tried to cut all of the pregame activities before the game started?
Well, and I don't
they weren't going to let Ralphie run. Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear that, but I did see it was kind of like a weird entrance. I mean, that's the best entrance in college sports.
Yeah. So I'll give you the background to it. All the games in Florida were basically on weather delay because of the hurricane.
Right.
Karen. Is it Karen?
It's Dorian or something like that.
I thought it was like Karen or Katrina.
Katrina? No,
it wasn't Katrina, but I want to say it was something Karen is heading towards them.
It's Hurricane Dorian.
Dorian?
It's currently threatening the U.S.
Huh. But all the games on that day for Florida were basically under weather delay. So this was the only game that was going to be on ESPN for our time zone, essentially.
Right.
And because it had already been in weather delay and lightning delay for almost an hour, ESPN was running out of time. They needed to start the game. And they basically told both schools, hey, you're not going to have the ability to do any of your pregame stuff. We're just going to get in right to the coin toss, and we're going to start right away.
You can't do that.
Yeah, and so...
Maybe if it was CU versus Oklahoma State or something.
Yeah, so then CU's athletic director...
Rick
George was... Did you see him on the sideline? His face was bloodshot red. His face was red because he was angry. he probably already had a couple drinks in him to ease the tension a little bit, and he was talking to the guys in ESPN jackets or whatever, and was telling them, nope, we're running Ralphie. Ralphie's gonna run. I don't care what you guys say. Ralphie's running. We don't play a game when Ralphie doesn't run.
That would be really interesting. What would happen? Would they have just ran Ralphie, or would they have not have played? Like,
well, I think there would have been a lawsuit or something, because that is tradition. Like, Ralphie is paid for to run on the field and to do the pregame sprint. That's what they do. That's Ralphie. And then also I think the boosters also pay for that too. So I think that's pretty important to them, I guess.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And those guys and ladies that run the Buffalo, Ralphie.
Cowboys and cowgirls?
Yeah, they are important too. That's like their game.
Thing,
that's important for them. They get to stand on the sideline the whole game. And
that's why the student section was chanting, we want Ralphie, because I think they got the hint that ESPN wasn't going to let Ralphie run. So that's when Rick George went into the locker room, pulled Ralphie out, got Ralphie right on the field almost. Yeah. And then that's when they walked him onto the field, and they were like, well, he's already on the field, so he's got to run now.
I mean, yeah.
Because they were like, his cage is on the other side of the field, so he's got to get to the other side of the field somehow, and he's going to run. So that's what they did.
That's pretty sweet. And yeah, that's one of the coolest traditions in college football, is just seeing
the
Ralphie
best
run.
live animal. I mean, I know LSU has a tiger.
Does he have a tiger run through? I mean, the Rams had a ram, but he looked like a rat. The
thing is tiny.
Yeah, it was not a very big ram.
That thing looked like a little lamb.
Looked like a bulldog.
What school is it that has that big hawk that flies around the stadium before the game? Who is it?
I don't know.
I don't know, but it's got its little handler. It flies all the way around the stadium, does a couple laps.
The Iowa Hawkeyes?
No, I don't think it's Iowa.
I don't know then, man.
It's another school, but it's like I think it's blue. Their colors are blue. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking, no.
North Carolina?
No.
Before football games or basketball games, Zion Williamson?
No, I don't remember.
Well, moving on, Ralphie will run again on Saturday at home at Folsom Field for the second edition of the new rivalry.
Let's go, Buffs!
It's not necessarily a new rivalry. This rivalry has been going on for a long time, but Nebraska will be coming to town. They were in Nebraska last year for Scott Frost opener. It was the first official game for Nebraska last year, since their first game was canceled because of the hurricane that was currently in. Not necessarily. There was no hurricane in Nebraska, but where Nebraska was supposed to play, there was a hurricane. So it canceled their first game. They had no tape. Adrian Martinez's first game, he gets injured. This whole blah blah blah, which is kind of creating a new rivalry, building this rivalry. And
well, from their press conference this morning, it sounds like Nebraska is instigating everything.
Oh, 100%. And that's how it's been the last couple of years.
Adrian Martinez played it pretty cool and basically said, no, it's not. It's not much, it's football. I expect to get hit. I expect to get hurt. It's football. It's a competitive sport. It's a tough sport. He said everything the media doesn't want him to say instead of, I hate CU. Go Big Red. That's not what he said, but that's what the media wants him to say.
Well, yeah, they just want to build it up. I don't know. This will be the first meeting in Boulder
since 2009.
Since 2009. The most expensive ticket right now was $1,115 plus fees, so probably around $1,300.
Yeah, it's on club level.
Which is pretty sweet for Folsom Field.
No, I think it's gonna be right. I think I looked at it. It was like $1,400 after fees per ticket.
And it's only gonna go up as we get closer to game time. Right now, you can't really get a ticket under $250 if you want to go to the game, unless you're a student and you can get in for free. You aren't sitting anywhere close.
But you got to camp out for those seats, I think.
Yeah. Pretty much.
You got to get there really early.
You got to get there 6 a.m. to tailgate or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But it's sure worth it. I don't blame you.
Do you think it would be worth it, or would you rather just watch it at home on TV?
Oh, my goodness. I'd rather be there.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
In a crowd that's 60% red?
If I'm in the student section, it's going to be 100% black.
100% black, but everywhere else in that stadium is going to be
I don't think so. I think there'll be a lot of red, but I don't think 60%.
I don't know. I think it's going to be at least 60% red. I'd make a bet. I would make a bet to see how much red is in that stadium. Let's bet lunch.
No. Why would I bet that? Why would you bet against a team that you're a fan of? That's like betting the Rockies will go under 30 games. And I would make that bet.
That's really ironic that you said that. Because Nebraska fans show out. They would pay whatever price to see Nebraska in Boulder. I'm telling you, and I talked to one of my friends, Nathaniel, on Twitter, he was telling me, or I guess I kind of told him that, hey man, the Cornhuskers have to come to Colorado, have to come to Boulder and play at Mile High Air.
It's not that big of a difference.
It's more than half, twice as much as their sea level. They're at like what, 2,000 feet?
That's still
2,200 feet.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a huge difference. I mean, it was clear that the tempo offense has been a key for Steven Montez the last few years, but I mean, I don't see that being a big factor, especially if both teams are coming off a big game. I mean, Nebraska didn't play necessarily bad in their first game against Southern Alabama. They scored 3 times on defense. They returned an interception, or 3 times on special teams and defense. They had a fumble recovery, an interception return, and a punt return. And they still were only able to beat Southern Alabama 35-21. They were outgained by 38 yards and only averaged 4.2 yards per play. So the offense of Nebraska, Adrian Martinez, in his return wasn't very smooth, and that's something that's probably going to be a key to watch.
They're about 1,000 feet above sea level.
Okay.
They got to come to 5,000 feet above sea level. How does that impact teams? I think it impacts teams. We'll get into that. I got a fan question about that later on. I saw that.
So Scott Frost had his debut season last year. Struggled out of the gate, really, but he finished strong. 4 out of his last 6 they won. So the expectations continue to rise. But their sophomore quarterback, he's interesting. He's exciting. I'm just not sold on him. His reads aren't very good.
He's only a sophomore. He's still got time to grow.
So is Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly. But Trevor Lawrence is a Heisman candidate.
So is Tua Tagovailoa.
Did you see his brother is playing for Alabama also? How sweet is that?
Would you not recruit Tua Tagovailoa's brother?
How do you say his last name again?
Tua Vialoa? I don't know. Jalen Hurts had a pretty damn good game for those Sooners in Oklahoma. He's a Heisman candidate. I don't know. Clemson, the 3-headed monster's back. I'm excited. This Bo Nix guy for Auburn looked pretty deep. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm loading the video on how to say his name.
You gonna play it for us?
Yeah. How do you Tua Tagovailoa?
Tagovailoa.
But
just call him Tua touchdowns, man. 2 touchdowns. He doesn't play for CU Nebraska.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Say that again.
Tagovailoa. Tagovailoa.
Who's that? Is that like
it's a computer.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Could you like copy and paste it in the Google Translate, or is that like an actual?
It's like an actual video from YouTube.
Oh, is it a Clemson fan saying it, or is it an Alabama fan? You got to think about bias there.
Computer generated.
News bias, man.
Computer generated.
I don't know, man.
Continue. Go ahead. Continue what you're saying.
Well, no, I think that really talks about what we got going on. What are your predictions for this game on Saturday?
I think CU's going to win again.
What's your final score then?
I think it's going to be. I honestly think it's going to be a close game. It's probably going to come down to one possession at the very end, just like last year. I think it's going to come down to
that'd be exciting.
One possession where it's 28-24.
The number that keeps coming to my head is 45-21.
Woo!
I think they could put up 45 points.
Who's they?
I don't know.
Who is that?
45-21 is my score, and I want to say Boulder rolls. Ralphie runs 45. I think Chenault will have another mediocre game because Nebraska saw what he did to them last year and will be very courteous of that. And I think by doing that, and it's going to show all season as teams continue to game plan for Laviska Chenault, they're going to leave Fontenot with a chance and the big tight end, and like there's going to be some holes being opened just because. And watching Nebraska play, like they had more than 3 turnovers that they forced last week, so their defense is going to be good too. It's not like they're a sleeper on defense. And the one place that CU struggled against CSU was their front end, right? Their defensive line, and that's where Nebraska will need to be successful. So whoever rushes for more yards will win this game.
Go Buffs.
And hopefully it'll be the Buffaloes coming out victorious. I know I had a
Play the video. Play the
I
video.
had to play something. Listen in real quick.
Play the video.
This one is for our fans out there.
We'd rather be dead than red. Okay? In other words, how do you get this team riled up? This is what it's all about. This is bigger than the NFL. The NFL doesn't get this big. The whole state can rally around this one. Maybe not in Fort Collins.
Yeah, not in Fort Collins. Although CSU should come together with CU and fight against the almighty evil empire. That was legendary coach Bill McCartney last year before the return of the rivalry. And I'm sure you have similar things to say this week.
I'd rather be dead than red.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the saying all over.
Let's get some T-shirts that say that, man. I'd rather be dead than red.
Are you going to Amazon Prime them? Because I don't think they'll get here in time if you're going to order some
All my
t-shirts.
Nebraska people that listen to this podcast.
We love you, but
We love you, but this is the week we're not talking. I'm not talking to you today. I'm not talking to you tomorrow. I'm not talking to you on Thursday. I'm not talking to you on Friday. And I'm damn sure not talking to you on Saturday. But I'll talk to you on maybe Monday. Maybe on Monday. Give me 24 hours after the game to kind of cool off after we win. And then I can talk to you about how much we beat.
you know, it was a little cooler today, but there was no frost. So we're
frost.
going to keep it that way for the rest of the week.
No frost, baby.
On Sunday, you can have all the frost you want. But Saturday, there's a frost warning.
Saturdays are for college football and for kicking Nebraska's butt. Let's go Buffs, baby.
The boys. Let's move into some listener questions. Unless
Listener
you want to call them
questions.
fans. So you can call them fans. if you want.
We'll call it listener questions, right?
I don't know what you wanna call
number one. This one's for you, Will. What are your thoughts on the Avs this year?
Man, they're gonna be exciting to watch. I know you're not gonna be able to watch them because of the altitude TV blackout.
Where's my car? Where's my car? I lost my car. Where's my car?
He works for the athletic department at MSU Denver.
That's my favorite joke.
Shout out Nate Lake.
That's my favorite.
Kel McCarr. I'm excited for their season. I expect them to not get off as like you remember last year. They got off to this blazing hard start. I mean, they had the three-headed monster, Gabe Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen. They were all like Hart Trophy candidates to start the year, and then they really took a dive. I think they'll start a little slower this year as they try to figure out what they need to do, but their experience will guide them through. I don't think they're going to sneak in again, and if they do sneak in under a 6 seed, then they really are, like you said, you were continuing saying like an 8 seed isn't what they should be, but if they get in any lower than a 6 this year, I think that's a disappointment unless they win a cup. I could see a 4, 3, or a 2. I don't see them being a 1 seed just because of how deep the Western Conference is. But
I respect that.
I think they're going to be good. Philip Grubauer looked good in goal, and then he gets consistent playing time, and he doesn't have Varlamov on his back. I think that'll be big.
True.
McKinnon's going to have another big year. Cale McCarr, whatever the Rookie of the Year is called, and
Where's my car?
and just pretty sound, and you forget that they have all these guys that are still on the rise that they haven't really brought in yet. So the Avs will have a pretty neat season.
Promising season. We'll call it a promising season. Record of the Broncos this season. What do they need to do to fix it? Will, what's your take right here?
Let's jump back real quick to the Avs before one closing. I think the Avs will have a better season than the Nuggets. I think they're gonna have similar seasons. They're gonna have similar seasons.
Woo!
But
You want to talk about a hot take right there?
But if they both win a cup, and one wins a cup, and one wins the finals, they're gonna have similar seasons.
If you're listening to this right now, and if you don't think that the Avs are going to be better than the Nuggets, email us game7show@gmail.com and let us know what you think.
Okay. Record of the Broncos this season. What did I say? I said 10-6 before the show. After watching, I can go down to 9-7.
Okay. I don't know whatever you're smoking, but I want some of what you're smoking. Broncos are going to be 6-10, and it's all dependent on their running game. If Royce Freeman or Philip Lindsay can somehow carry this offense, and Joe Flacco can be the game manager instead of a quarterback, I think this is going to be a good year. But the chances of that happening are pretty low, and so I'm going to say they're going to go 6-10. We missed the playoffs again. Vance Joseph or Vic Fangio might be on the hot seat again.
Oh, I don't see that.
You don't think so? You're telling me if we're not successful this year, his seat's not a little warm from John Elway? He's not losing his patience just even a little bit?
Something I've always believed is like when you change leadership, you do not see that change until 2 years. And that goes for any leadership, right? You're going to see that overlap of the previous person.
Vance
and
Joseph
whether
lasted
it's
2
good.
years. He didn't even barely lasted 2 years.
And we're still going to feel Vance Joseph's culture on this team. Next year, you'll see Vic Fangio. I know that there's a little bit of a change this year so far, but that culture will always relay over. And whether you're good or bad, because that year after Gary Kubiak left, they were still somewhat good, right? It wasn't like they were necessarily bad. The year after Peyton Manning left, they weren't necessarily bad, but it was a completely different culture. So I'm interested in starting a podcast. What do I need to start? One, suggestions. Enroll at Metro State University in Denver, and come to Met Media for the sports media director. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Pretty much all you need, you could use your cell phone for a podcast.
And
you know, you got voicemail. We've done it before, right? Where you just got to have the voicemail as you hold it pretty close to your mouth, and I guess it just depends on the type of quality that you want, you know. But there's also microphones that are out there on Amazon. You can get those for, you know, $10-15 a piece. You know, the software is probably going to be like $10 a month. So, you know, you're $25 in the hole already, which isn't bad to start a podcast.
But if it's something you're interested in, just run for it. Try it out. I think that was the biggest thing. Like, I started, you started before me, but I did not start very strong, and now it's something that I've really enjoyed. And I told myself all through, I was like, I never want to do radio or broadcast or anything like that. And now here we are doing a podcast every week. So
yeah, I mean, and I encourage you guys that it's going to sound rough at first, you know, and it's going to be weird listening to your voice on play and on the radio and on a podcast. You know, it's going to be different hearing your voice there, but I guarantee you nobody's judging your voice.
Yeah,
I guarantee nobody, because they know your voice. They're gonna be like, "Wow, you're on a podcast, dude." That's what they're gonna say. They're gonna say, "Wow, that's so cool."
And it's like scientifically proven that you hear your voice differently than other people. So, and it will really help you. Like now, when I do interviews or whatever for Met Media, like I have to listen to my own voice in voice memos, right? When I talk to people.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't really bug me anymore. Maybe like when I'm at work, if I have to make a closing announcement or whatever, I can hear my own voice, and it doesn't affect me when it's on the speaker. What stands out to you guys about the standings in baseball right now? I think the biggest thing is the teams that are in the playoffs are young, and especially on the NL side, like Atlanta is very young. They've been there, but they're young. St. Louis is young. Washington is very young.
Yeah. I think what surprises me still is that the Twins climbed their way back into first place in the Central. Not only are they up, but they're up 5.5 games.
And
that's what surprises me the most.
What are the Twins?
85 and 52.
Well, they're young. That was
they're
what
young.
I was going for.
Okay.
But, and the other key point to make here is all these teams hit home runs. The Yankees, they hit home runs. The Astros, they hit
Twins
home runs.
Just broke the record.
Broke the record. If you flip to the other side, the Dodgers have an NL leader. So, like, the Braves, Josh Donaldson's starting to break out and become a very, very good hitter again. So, that's something that comes out. What division race are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the NL Central. You know, you got the Cardinals sitting there at the top at 77 and 60. The Cubs are 3 games behind them. They've really slumped since the beginning of the year. You know, and then the Brewers are 7 games behind. But still, you got a lot of teams that are you got a lot of teams that are competitive for this wild card. You know, you got the Nationals who are only 6.5 games behind the Braves. Then you got the Cubs and the Brewers. You know, and it's gonna be a tough wild card race. I'm excited to watch it.
I love the NL West. 29 games back. No, I'm just kidding. I would have to go with the Central too, and not the NL Central. I want to say the AL Central, and it is a 2-team race out there, the Twins and the Indians. And unfortunately, I think the team that loses that race in the NL Central the AL Central will not make the playoffs, just because the Rays are very damn good, and the A's are really making a push. I would be interested in seeing the Rays and the A's again.
Oh yeah.
But I think whoever wins that, and I said like the Twins and the Indians will be the best series we'll see all postseason. So if they have to play a game 163, I would be so down for that.
Yep. I'd be excited for game 163, man.
Which team currently in the playoff hunt do you think is most likely to miss the postseason? In the playoff hunt or in the playoffs? If you're saying in the playoff hunt, it's obviously going to be the Brewers. That's my choice. Yes, they've been there before, but their pitching isn't just
the Brewers are 4 games back of the wild card. Arizona's 3.5. Philadelphia's 2.5 back.
You know, something that
Hey, the Mets are only 4 games back.
It's going to be interesting. The one thing that I'll say vice versa to that question, which team do you think most likely versus not likely? What team is most likely to push in? The Arizona Diamondbacks. If they're able to get in, win the wild card, they will beat the Los Angeles Dodgers if they get in.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, they've played them
man.
tight all year. If you continuously look, I'd like to see the head-to-head stats because I'm pretty sure the Diamondbacks have a winning record against the Dodgers this year.
I don't think so. Cleveland Indians are currently sitting in the second wild card spot, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them fall out of the bottom. I still think the Red Sox have one last push in them this month, and they're only 5.5 games. I say only 5.5 games back. It's September, but I think they still have one last push in them. You know, they all it takes is one series to get hot. The Oakland Athletics are only a game behind the Cleveland Indians, and it's only a half game separating Tampa Bay and Cleveland in that wild card. So I think it's open between those four teams, between Boston, Oakland, Cleveland, and Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay is another team to look at. I think they're on the verge. They've been quietly good all year. They just maybe they fall apart here, and that's something to think about. The Phillies are another team that are right on the brink that I think will struggle. They got hot lately, but
and another team, don't count out the Rockies, man. 16 games back, 59 and 80. Don't count them out, man.
Count them out for home field advantage. The question here is who will get home field advantage? The Yankees or the Astros?
Oh,
that's a great question.
That's a good one.
Whoever's hotter.
They're both sitting at 90 and 49 right now.
Do they play each other again? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Will you look that one up?
I don't think so.
I'll give you my take on this one. Yankees or Astros? I'd rather see them play in New York, to be completely honest with you. I mean, it's just New York is, not that it's better, but it's more historic, essentially. A Game 7 in New York between the Yankees and the Astros would be pretty sweet. Then a Game 6 in Houston will be pretty sweet, too. But
I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now, and honestly, it looks like the Astros have the easier schedule. I mean, they got the.
Does that matter?
It does. It does, because the Yankees have to play against the Tampa Bay Rays and the Angels and the Red Sox and the Rangers a bunch of times against the Rangers, actually.
Well, and I would say that the Yankees are going to not back into the playoffs, and they'll be playing these good teams, and they'll be used to it. So, I will take the Yankees for home field advantage.
I'm going to take the Astros for home field advantage.
Good
I
pick.
think they got the better rotation. I think they can get through it better. Verlander or Cole for American League Cy Young. These are the two candidates. Primary, I guess, two of the leading candidates for the American League Cy Young and their teammates, Verlander or Cole. Which one are you taking?
Verlander. I mean,
I'm gonna take Verlander too. He just threw his third no-no. How can you go against
He's just been damn good, and he's given up the most home runs to baseball, but so what? He's damn good.
He limits damage, man. Limits damage. Does the altitude actually affect sports in Colorado? Like, will the altitude affect Nebraska or any other football team for that matter in Boulder? Yes, altitude does matter. 100%. You can't breathe. If you can't breathe at 5,280 feet above sea level, you're going to have a problem playing defense. You're going to have a problem running the ball. Nebraska's got to bring their oxygen tanks with them this week.
And I don't think it'll be that much of a difference for a team like Nebraska to come in here. But a team like, think about the Pac-12. They're pretty much at elevation too.
Think about UCLA or Arizona coming into town. Those are teams that probably have to adjust and probably have to bring some oxygen tanks. But
and one thing that I like to remember is that the Rise is Real team. That was the 2-year ago team that won the Pac-12 South.
Yep.
With Stephon Lufau, and their key was that they worked on tempo, right? Philip Lindsay was their beast running back. That was their tempo.
Yep.
And another thing to think about is George Karl's teams that went to like 9 straight playoffs.
Tempo.
With Melo. They worked
Melo
on
and Chauncey.
running.
Allen Iverson was a part of that for a quick minute,
So it's clearly
J.R.
an
Smith.
effect. But who does it affect? I mean, even the Broncos for the Tebow years with would Ryan Clark, I think it was his name, what's he going to play for the Steelers? Different things like that. So any more fan questions that you have that you didn't enter? That was kind of fun. That was kind of like rapid fire. I think that's how we should do it, is it's like super rapid fire. Boom, 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 boom.
That was pretty good, huh?
It felt cool, and we were just going back and forth, and I felt like we were really having a great discussion there. And we didn't get too long, and you didn't yawn this time for once, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. Let's close it out today, man. Let's close it out.
Do I get to go do the closing this week too? I think you do the closing better.
Okay. Well, I'll start it off. What did you learn today, Will? What did you learn? Tell me what you learned.
I've learned that I'd rather be dead than red.
There you go. I learned it sucks to be a CSU Ram last week, and I also learned that Shaun White is 33 years old. 1986. That's no. Is that? Did I mess this up? That's not 33 years, is it? 19.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that is
2019.
years, huh? And Bud Smith can throw a no-hitter in his 4th career start and then not be heard of again after 2002. Pretty interesting stuff right there.
There's a lot of pitchers like that in baseball.
There is. It could be Kyle Freeland. You never know.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
Thank you, Met Radio, for hosting us. As always, Met Radio is the student voice of MSU Denver, gives us the platform to talk on the podcast, basically gives us the ability to reach a bigger audience, talk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. As always, hit us up with questions for the next podcast. Interact with us on social media. We made some takes today. If you didn't like our takes, or if you did like our takes, email us, game7show@gmail.com, or you could slide in my DMs at Isaac at Isaac_Bugarin, ISAAC_BUGARIN, or you could hit up Will at Will_Satler. That is WILL_SATLER. You can follow us on Twitter at _Game7, GAMESEVEN. YouTube Game 7 Show, Facebook Game 7 Show. That's where we're gonna post the full length clips of the video and different segments that we had this week.
You know, you should start posting those short things. So then, like, if people just go to our YouTube, you just hear bloop, you get the short video, and you can like go to that quick, because that's what ESPN does and stuff.
What do you mean?
Just post the short clips that we post on Facebook and stuff. You know,
Just
what
post them on the YouTube. I'll also do that. I want to remind everybody that if you are looking for a pet, to go to the shelter first, as always.
I like how you changed it from dog to pet.
Because shelters have cats too.
Well, they have more than just dogs and cats. They have chihuahuas.
They have pets. A chihuahua is a dog, dude. Oh my goodness.
Chihuahuas are not dogs.
If you're looking for a pet, go to the shelter first.
We'll see you guys next week.
Rather. Oh, you cut my mic. Oh, rather be dead than red.
I was not expecting that. Rather be dead than red.
I'll catch you next week.